Science, Rush Production.
What is going on, everybody? This is your boy, Coach Coleman, Jesse Coleman, and you're checking into another episode of Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast where we help you tap into your full potential. I hope everybody had a great week. Hope everybody had a happy and safe 4th of July, however you celebrated, whatever you did. Hope you all had a good time. Um, I realized that I'm kind of an old man. Like my daughter, she was ready for fireworks. I was ready to get it done by like 7 or 8 so I can lay down and go to sleep. Yet we had a good time. We made it happen. And, it was a good thing. So I'm not going to bore you with all those things because I have a special guest. And it's funny. Um, we were supposed to get together to record this podcast episode for a while. And it was just always something popping up. A lot of it too, I'll be very honest and take the blame. A lot of it was on my side of things to where it was like, okay, let's schedule a date and time. And I'm like, all right, I got it. And then something come up. Yet here we are. I'm excited to have her. Somebody that I just see so much in her, like so much greatness, and she's doing a lot of amazing things on the real estate side of things, and just in her personal life. And we're going to talk a lot about those amazing things that she got going on. So I am going to quit talking and get ready and bring her up. And let me bring her to the stage, Dr. Mel. What is going on?
Hey, Coach, how are you?
I am doing good. I am doing good. Like I said, it was just funny when we were getting ready to hop on. I'm like, we finally made it happen. Finally made it happen. And like you said,
Clear
life be
my
life.
schedule. I'm so excited.
Well, I am excited to have you here. And so so I'm gonna jump right into it, right? We know that so you have a background in education, and then you end up making that switch from the education side of things to the real estate side of things. But what got you into the education field in the first place?
It's funny. As a K-12 student, I was a terrible student. I was made out to be a terrible student. I was very good in all sports and everything. And when it came to math and reading, and it was like a foreign language for me. And so, crazily enough, I was a CD student. And then I got to college and became a 4.0 and never seen anything less than that since pursuing education. I even went into college not even knowing what career I wanted. I was in marching band, I was a dancer. And one of my big sisters at Hampton was like, I'm a speech language pathologist. I'm like, that sounds cool. Let's do that. And that's quite literally how I picked my major. And then quickly found out that you have to keep going to immatriculate through masters and then to actually practice as an SLP. So I was like, I'm not doing that. 6 years later, I continued with two masters and a doctorate. And so apparently I love education. And I want to pour that into other Brown students who may have the same upbringing as me. And when I couldn't do speech, I wanted to do something that was eerily similar. Education felt familiar because my family is a whole school. We could probably run a school with all the teachers that we have in our family. And so I've been surrounded by it my whole life and was like, well, at least I can help a speech pathologist when I'm in the classroom. And then from there, I just matriculated up.
And then how long were you in the education field, the educational field?
So I did 10 years in the classroom, special education. I did
Mhm.
K through 5 and then some secondary as well. And then I did 3 years in administration.
Nice. So with making that transition going into the real estate side of things, before even getting into that, like what were some of the lessons you personally took from, being a teacher? Because we know that we learn a lot from teaching as well as us doing the teaching. What were some of the things that you learned from that molded you into the person you are right now?
What I realized in teaching is that um, you are in charge, essentially, of so many young minds, and even your coworkers around you. And you have a huge impact on how their days will go. From the very second that they cross the threshold of your classroom door or even those school buildings, we have the power to dictate if they're going to have a good day or if they're going to have a bad day. We get to dictate if a situation arises, how they can handle it. We can give them options. Um, any situation, good or bad, we're the ones who get to allow them to navigate their own emotional intelligence into figuring out how they're going to move. And sometimes there's consequences that come with it, and we teach the consequences. And sometimes there's celebration that comes with it, and we all get to celebrate together. And so it's the same thing when we're working with clients. We get to dictate
Yeah.
how their experience is going to be. We get to be the ones to be the experts and give the facts and the information and help them work through it. They're not always going to have good news, and they're not always going to have, bad news or losing offers or anything like that. But it's what we do next that helps them move forward. And I'm speaking very broadly because it applies to so many things.
Yeah, it really does. And it made me think as you were saying that, it made me think of like, so how what did you do to, since you were kind of like the quote unquote leader or the driver of how their mood would be and how they would be. So how were you able to stay in a mindset and in that framework to show up every day as that person that can help build the younger kids into, as they're getting older and as they're learning?
Honestly, I just kept thinking about what would I want for me? What didn't I have when I needed it? And not that I didn't have a great support system. I had an amazing support system. They have not had the same challenges and pathways that I've had. And so, in a way, I am breakthroughing some of those
Yeah.
things on my own and having to figure those out for myself. And
Yeah.
so, I use my own life lessons to figure out what worked well for me and what didn't, and what could I have used in that moment. And that's pretty much how I move through life. What does somebody need to hear? What does somebody need to know? What information are they missing that may be blurring their vision or blurring their hearing at this time? And just trying to provide everything that we don't naturally think about when we're in a state of thinking of something specific.
Yeah. And you know what's it's kind of funny about that is that, what's that old saying? Well, it's an old saying. It's that treat others the way you want to be treated. And it's funny because we hear that and we know that, but to your point of, hey, how would I want to be treated? How would I want to be, like, you think about, okay, how would I react to these certain things? And then that's how you show up because hey, I would not like this situation, or I would not like that. And I think that's one of those things that people know, or they either choose to not care about how other people feel, or they just let that slip out their mind, like, no, I should treat other people the same way I would want to be treated.
It's so interesting. Being African, my family is from Ghana and living in America, and the differences in just culture in general. And it's in African culture is not the only culture that has that community tribal feel of we're
Yeah.
constantly thinking of other people. For example, if I'm walking down the street and I trip, somebody is going to say sorry. It didn't happen to them. It happened to me, but they felt that and they were able to be like, oh, sorry. They have empathy, they have sympathy. Where here you trip and you can't catch eye contact because they're getting ready to bust out laughing at you. And
Yeah.
it's just a different kind of mentality of community. And we live in such an individualistic, give me culture that I think it's no longer natural to think of other people and what they're feeling. Um, and in so many instances, and there's a lot we can contribute to that, and I could probably pull up a lot of articles to support that, but it's us who do think of people that I think just keeps humanity going, teams working, clients and transactions, and just whoever we encounter, a community.
Yeah. And you know what that makes me think about it also too is that we are in a time where pretty much everybody is a hypocrite in some form or fashion. And I say that because I think about the most random situation. Perfect example of there's a certain street when I'm going home where there's stop signs and nobody stops at the stop sign, right? And they think it's okay. Yet if you're the one that doesn't stop at the stop sign and they're the one that's like, "Oh crap," and they have to punch their brakes, they're upset. So I think of it like, well, it's okay if you do it, but if somebody do it to you, it's
Hmm.
a problem. So perfect example to your story of if you walk down the street and you trip and fall, somebody they'll pull out their phone, they'll start laughing, as opposed to if they do that and fall and you pull out your phone, they'll be upset and they'll be mad at you.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it goes back to that,
Yeah.
that's just how things are framed, which is it's so weird. It, it's so weird.
It's and then it's but then also on the other side, like I'm not gonna sit here and be a goody two shoe and say like when we're scrolling social media we chuckle too, like when we see it,
Yeah,
and there is a level of empathy and sympathy that we do carry naturally, but it's not genuinely the first emotion or
yeah,
characteristic that comes out. I'm not going to say that the first person that pulls out the phone, is thinking ill intent. In some instances, it's actually helped in investigations, like if you go into police stuff and things like that. But it is a cultural thing for sure. Because if you're sneezing, I'm going to say bless you. And sometimes you sneeze and you're like, I just almost passed out from sneezing for so long. And you guys are just looking at me like, I'm like, nothing, nothing. Okay.
that
But
is that's funny.
it's been instilled that I, as a Cancer, I am like true and true, the emotional Cancer that feels everything and feels everything hard. It then in return thinks that everybody else feels the same way. And I think that's what's led me to make sure that I'm always putting my best foot forward so that
Yeah,
I'm not making somebody feel a way knowing how hard I feel. I don't want them to go through something similar to that.
yeah, and I think that's one of the things for a lot of us that do what we do as far as, you were a teacher in the educational system. I do the coaching side of things on real estate and other avenues where we don't want we have a compassion for people where we want to just help and we can't completely eliminate hard times, but we want to be able to be there as much as we can, try to help them up, help them get ready if those situations happen. Yeah, we always find ourselves in those fields of a industry or a job or a title that's known for helping others, right? And so that makes me wonder, with your transition from the educational side of things to the real estate side of things, what were some of the things that you took from that you're implementing into what you're doing in the real estate industry?
In education, as a Cancer type A personality, I was very much into the laws and policies and regulations of things and doing things by the book as much as I could, while also kind of incorporating some out of the box creativity if necessary, if something wasn't working and was broken that needed to be fixed. And so the transition was really easy for me to come in. We have purchase contracts, purchase agreements. We have literally, there's a paper for everything. And there's already a rule and a guideline for everything. So there's nothing that we're really writing as realtors. We're just implementing and following. And for me and for my clients, it served me well to be able to quote um, direct statements from the purchase agreement, and showing the actual education behind why things are the way that they are. And so it takes a lot of the emotion out of. Oftentimes, we'll have sellers who are very sentimental or emotional about their home. And when they were to get an offer that feels maybe offensive to them, you can easily just pour it back into the contract. They're saying this because this is how it has to be done. And I did a lot of that in education. I was the LEA, which is the special education administrator, for lack of better terms, who made sure that meetings and everything were facilitated properly, adequately, and in compliance. And so I believe and have been told that I think that policy mindedness that I have has been something that's been really helpful in our transactions as we move through real estate.
So I want to ask you a question, and I was going to say for the listeners that don't know, but I'm one of the listeners for this topic that I don't know. What is the A-type personality?
I believe the A type personality is the one to follow the rules, like
Okay.
almost afraid to break a rule. And
Okay.
and when I say type A, that's what I mean. I'm like, oh no, there's a rule for that. I'm doing it this way. Very organized, just very kind of authoritative leadership styles. Has a direction, has goals in mind. Um, Leaves out a lot of the fluff when it comes to things, which is funny because when I write, I'm a very fluffy writer. I used to get in trouble all the time in my doctoral program because I had too much fluff in there, not enough facts. But
Yeah.
when it comes to speaking and leading, for sure, I'm like, I'm not going to add my opinion into something because I want you to know the facts and then make the opinion for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's how
So
I describe my type A. But
I feel like that's something I should look into because I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm a type A, I'm a type this," and I'm like, I don't know what any of that was. Like I know the this thing and I know some of the other stuff, but I don't know the different types. So I would say from your explanation of it, I'm definitely not a type A because I do not
oh
follow rules
no.
at all. I do not follow rules at all. So that eliminated me right then and there from that because
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I don't follow rules. I am a
Well,
ask for forgiveness and not permission type person.
and I'm completely the opposite. I mean, it comes down to like planning a vacation. My stuff is planned out with an itinerary, and you and like my husband, he's a type B, is like, well, we landed, now what? And he'll make the best trip ever. So like the spontaneity is also just an important characteristic to have, and make sure you find your opposite because good teams, you make good teams.
So now you said it's making me think because I would do that for certain things, but like if it's a trip, okay, I'll plan this, I'll do that, and then it's like,
Mm,
okay, well, when I get there, I got some ideas, but I'm just gonna go have fun. So it's an interesting thing. I wonder if there's a test or something that can be taken for that because up to some point, I can be structured and want things in
mhm.
order, and then after some point, I'm like, okay, all hell, all chaos. Yes, I'm good with that. Like whatever goes, goes. So
But
that's interesting.
I think that's supposed to be how it is. Like in your professional life, you want to show up a certain way. And a lot of the times, in order to show up a certain way, you do have to be prepared. You have to have a level of preparation. You have to have
Yeah.
structure. You have to have systems in place. Where now it's my personal life, and I am ready to cut loose. I don't need to
Yeah.
like, this is what I'm going to eat this at this time at this minute. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a good balance to have both. And I think even like the DISC and the Myers Briggs and all of the personality tests and communication styles are a good general of where we are. But I think we move in and out of all of these things at any given
Yeah.
moment because we have to adapt to who's around us.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that too, because I had a conversation with someone and they were hung up on the disc scale. I'm like, hey, here's the thing, especially for us as entrepreneurs, we are able to navigate through each one of those because depending on the situation, we have to show up a certain way. And like you said, even not talking to our clients, if we're talking to our kids or we're talking to friends and we know their personality styles, we know that the way we talk to one friend can't be the same way we talk to another because
Mhm.
of those personality differences. So I was explaining to him, like, no, you're a chameleon. Don't get stuck up in one thing. You can maneuver through multiple realms. And it goes back to the point of the introverts and extroverts. Like, I consider myself both. I think it's an omnivert, right? Where depending on the
Same.
situation, I'm going to be one of the other. I lean more to
Mhm.
the introvert side, but I can be an extrovert when it needs to be. So I'm glad you brought that up because I want our listeners to know that, like, don't get hung up on one of those things because you can weave through either one of those. Hell, when you get older, you can go from one to the other.
You can't, and it's such an easy thing to think about. Like, if you are not sure who you are as a disc, don't even really focus on it. Think about who your friend group is and the diverseness of your friend group. Can you communicate with each one of your friends on a one-to-one level, and then can you communicate with them in a group level? If you can, then you can navigate through all of the disc different profiles and all of the other Myers-Briggs profiles. And whether you're an introvert or an extrovert is really how you get energy. So just because I'm quiet in a setting doesn't mean I don't have a lot to say.
Yeah.
It just means I'm taking it in, right? But I can go home and talk my husband's ear off, and he's like, what happened?" You know what I mean? Like, so you
Yeah.
go in and out depending on the situation, and I'm a true believer of that. I do believe every single personality assessment that I've taken has hit me on the head. Like, they read me like a book. I agree, but I also can move in and out, and I think we have to as people.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point because I always say in the entrepreneur realm, yet you just hit it spot on. Just as people in general, like, there's some people that are not entrepreneurs that's going to deal with a lot of different type of people where you have to know, like, okay, I can't be a high D if I'm getting a vibe that this person is more analytical or more, a little bit social. So it's just knowing that so you can know how to interact with people.
I actually had an interesting situation where I was being offered a referral, and they were very specific on the client themselves is a high D, and that they needed a high D agent. And in my head, as an administrator, I know not to mix a high D and a high D, not to mix oil with water, right? It doesn't, it just bubbles, it separates. It doesn't really work that way. So I was very intrigued on like how you decided what kind of agent you thought you needed. And in actuality, I'm more of a higher I. And I think the characteristics and the personality in the I softens some of the D so that you can actually work together on a better collaborative nature. And so I ended up bringing in another agent that was a high D, and it was a train wreck, right? But the feedback given was, oh, the client really enjoyed speaking with you, working with you, liked how you presented yourself. I'm like, yes, because I'm an I. I'm not going to butt heads with you. I'm going to see, I'm going to listen, I'm going to validate, I'm going to give you your next options. Versus, 2Ds might have two different thought processes and they never come together. And so I think it is important to know who you are more so than what letter you are, and to know how to be the balance of whatever that other person is on the other side of the table is.
Yeah.
And don't feel like you have to lock yourself into, oh, I'm a high I. Well, I can also be a very high C.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you
Th-
know,
So, so I want you all that's listening or watching, like, that's one of the things where figure out who you are first. Like figure out like because a lot of us that are not in certain realms or ecosystems, we don't realize that that's a thing. Where it's like, okay, let me look in the mirror. Okay, how do I like to be communicated with? If somebody says something like this to me, how does that make me feel? Oh, okay, so I am this type of person. And then that helps you start to have different conversations with the people that you're having, and you're being a little bit more aware of what you're saying and how you're saying things. Because knowing that one person can take a tone a certain way, like you say something in a higher tone, that it triggers them in a certain way where you just like, well, no, that's just how I talk when I'm excited. So knowing who we are, and then that helps us start to learn who other people are. Though that way, that communication could be a little bit more smoother that you're having with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. All
I
right,
think the
so
thing that helps me the most too with communicating with somebody and you're uncertain is my 24-hour rule. And you don't always have this time to you don't always have 24 hours. But if you're uncertain about how somebody communicates something with you and you just take 24 hours to think about, okay, what was happening before this? What was happening during this? Is there anything that I know that's happening in their life? And then 24 hours, if it's still bothering you, then I go back and I will say, hey, can you tell me more about what you meant when you said or did? And if you don't have 24 hours, it's still just take a pause, take a break. If you're texting, call each other. Oh my gosh, text messages can be so
yeah,
misconstrued. Like we just have to learn to not jump into assuming the worst. And I think
yeah,
that's the most important. Goes back to you treat people how you want to be treated. Don't assume
yeah,
the worst. Like,
yeah. Well, isn't that interesting? And I've talked about this. So there's two parts. So there's two parts here that, and I don't want to lose both of them. So the first part is, isn't it interesting how we jump to the worst case scenario with things? Like we always think the worst first. Like, wait a minute,
always.
why did they type it like that? Like, we don't know. And I've been guilty of this. Like, wait a minute, I don't like the way that sound as
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading it, right? We'll say I don't like the way that sound, but we're actually reading a
Right.
text. And I'm kind of ashamed to say this, yet I have met other people that are the same way as me, where I hate the thumbs up emoji. I hate that so much. I When somebody give me the thumbs up emoji,
Yeah.
I feel like they just saying whatever. And
Whatever.
when I told somebody that, it is funny because I told somebody that, and they was like, "No, I'm just saying it's good." I'm like, "Well, I for some strange reason, I take that as a yeah, whatever." Because, and
Yeah.
I think it's because I probably do that sometimes. Like if I get somebody a thumbs up, it's because I'm saying whatever.
And that's it right
So
there. That's exactly what it is for everything. Like I was an exclamation point girly through and through. I would put it on when I'm happy, when I'm mad, when I'm just saying hi. Like, and people don't always take things how you intend them to be. And when we
yeah,
think that way, and that's how I just got lost in my own statement. But when we think that way, we just assume everybody else thinks the same way that we think.
yeah, that is true. And to that point, that goes into like a conversation I'll have with an agent, and it's like, okay, why aren't you calling the people that you know, love, and trust? And when we finally get to the bottom of it, it's like, well, I don't like when people call me. So it's like, oh, so you're not calling people because you don't like when people call you. They're like, yeah, I be just
Yeah,
relaxing and I be chilling and people call me and I hate it. And I'm like, well, you can everybody's not like that. There are some people that would love to get a phone call from you and to hear from you. So yes, that is true. We take what we like or don't like and we project that to the world to where we think that's what it is everywhere.
yes,
So
super guilty because I'll call somebody on the way home and they don't answer, and then they call me back when I'm just at home chilling, and I'm like, oh, nope.
yeah. Like, well, I tried to call you and
You
now
didn't
I'm
answer when I
chilling.
was
So
ready. Yeah. Guilty,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. It's just funny how we operate like that, where we just automatically think that that's how somebody else is, you know. And the other part, yeah, I almost forgot. And the other part of that, when you said the 24-hour rule, I love that because I tell people all the time, like you, that gives you the time to get from an emotional point to a logical point.
Hmm.
Because if we react or if we respond or if we say something when we're emotional, more than likely we're going to say something that we didn't really want to say, as opposed to if we waited the 24 hours and you calm down some and you're thinking from a more clear standpoint than the whatever that feeling that you're in right there at that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, something I definitely took from education as well is I did a lot of de-escalation as an admin, and separating people, giving space, giving verbal space, just physically turning your back from the other person when you're having a conversation because I'm too busy looking at your face and not what you're saying. Because now your face is telling me one thing, but what you're saying is something different. And de-escalation in itself, for me, it means I need time to process, and it can mean something for different people, and you have to just learn who that person is. It could mean let's switch conversations and talk about cars, and then come
Yeah.
back to this conversation. Like let's just table it for a second. And so de-escalation is, I think, huge just in humanism.
Well, we can probably agree that a lot of things in this world would be totally different if everybody worked on their de-escalation um, tactics or technique to turn bad situations or intense situations a little bit down a notch to where it's a little bit more in the realm where we can communicate more as opposed to the high tension of things.
Hmm. Especially with negotiations.
So let's go into a little bit of um, about it was some exciting news. Your birthday just passed, so you know happy birthday again.
Thank you.
And um, I saw there was some good news of a new opportunity that you just jumped into. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been in real estate for about a year. Officially transitioned in June of last year, and I wasn't going to work for nobody ever again in my life. I was going to take control. I was going to be the best, get it from the mud, um, and just serve so many families. And while I got to serve so many families, what I realized is a life worth living. And um, and although I'm obsessed with my work, I'm obsessed with what I do, I'm obsessed with serving, it was taking away from my own family. And I was missing dinners, and I was at dinner on my phone or on vacation taking care of my mom and answering phone calls, right? So between wanting to increase my service area and who I'm servicing, June of every year, I take the month intentionally and I reflect. And I reflect a lot on this life worth living and wanted to figure out how I can continue to be obsessed with my job and do a really good job at my job, but still be present for my family. And still learn more because I'm also somebody who has to learn. I have to hit a ceiling, break a ceiling, hit a ceiling, break a ceiling. And once I feel like I'm trapped or stuck, I start to shut down personally. And so I was like, looking around the office and being in sales meetings and just watching teams work together, and they get to come in and they're happy. You can hear them giggling in their offices when you're walking through, and watching them celebrate each other's successes and learn from each other. I was like, that's me. And interestingly enough, through my interview process, um, one of the ladies told me, it's interesting, Mel, you create community, you create events, you create these spaces, but you don't have your own community here in real estate. And I was like,
Mm.
that's what I'm missing. That's what I'm missing. Like, hit it right there on the head. And so July 1st, I joined the right group of Richmond, Virginia. And it's a phenomenal team that services so many great people. Our team leader is in charge of KW Luxury. And so the extensive amount of knowledge that she carries alone, and again, those laws and policies that she has to be apt with, just align perfectly with kind of who I am. And then getting into like new construction and being able to work with other builders and build other collaborations with people who are also in the real estate sector was really important to me as well. And so
Nice.
I'm actually sitting here in my
That's
new
it.
office now, and I'm
No
thrilled. I'm
office.
absolutely
Nice.
thrilled. Yes.
It was something that stuck out to me that you just said, and it hit you when she said it, is that you create these environments, you create these communities, yet you don't have your own, inside of there. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that because I can guarantee there are some people that are listening or watching where they do good at creating and helping other environments, but they don't have that environment for themselves. So what triggered for you when she made that statement and you were like, aha, what were some other things, or if there were some other things that really, triggered you when you heard that?
I think for me, it was going home, going through my, so in education, I would have my day. I would go home and I'd be able to be like, this is what happened in my day. This is how it made me feel. And then have a conversation back and forth about it. Because real estate is so, you don't know what's going to happen in your day most
Yeah.
of the time. I mean, outside of time blocking and like what you've set up to do, you don't know what conversations are going to arise. And when I realized I didn't have kind of that community to kind of go back and forth with to get not only, heat off my chest, but also suggestions or like how to answer objections or how to move somebody who's stuck from stuck to unstuck, and not having somebody who knew who I was talking about. Like in education, everybody knew everybody, so I could talk
Yeah.
about somebody you didn't even I didn't have to say their name, right? But
It is.
in real estate, we practice confidentiality for our clients, and so if you don't have a profession like that, it's hard to relate to. And I found myself just in situations by myself. Um, And I'm sure if I opened up and could just spill the beans, I could find a million other people. But I take my confidentiality and my fiduciary rights to my clients very serious. And so I didn't have that community. I had people who were like, oh,
Gotcha.
you went on an appointment, you go girl, or like,
Yeah.
oh, you closed. Like I had the support. I didn't have the community.
Yeah.
And I don't want to misconstrue everybody who has helped me get to the point that I'm at as not my community, but also they have their own businesses, and I was so new that I didn't want to pour so much onto them and not give them anything back, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So
Understood. But to go into that one part of having the people that understand what you're going through, like that's real, especially in our industry where our it's funny to say it this way and when you think about it, but it's like our livelihood depends on other people's moods and their emotions,
mhm.
right? And that's why it's a part of our job to help them think logically and not emotionally, because a person can have a emotional situation where they just like, you know what? I know I'm supposed to close on this house tomorrow, but I don't feel like it, and something happened, and they will, like,
Do everything in their
they'll,
power.
yeah. So it's like the average person wouldn't understand when you have that conversation with them, but your community, somebody that's been through that and they know that, they're like, I get it, and you can have a more conversation with them as opposed to somebody else that'll just say, oh, well, that's okay. You'll get another one. Don't worry about it. And it's like, whoa, hold on. Like, That ain't the conversation I want to have right now. Right? So
The amount of
we need
times
that community.
somebody has told me, "Oh, just drop them." Huh? What you mean just drop them? Absolutely not. Not an option. We're working through this.
Yeah,
So yeah.
a lot of people just don't get that. So that's why we do need that community. We do need, you know, the people that not only understand what we're going through, but also, you need that community of people that's gonna hold you accountable on what it is that you're supposed to be doing, your goals and stuff like that. Right. So there's a few. I always hate when I interview people and there's a few different directions that I want to go. It's like, oh, we don't have enough time to go through everything. But so I would just ask you this, then. So what does the rest of 2026 looks like for you? What are, personal and business wise, what does that look like for you going into towards the second part of the year?
2026 more looks like a more focused service group. Um, I have been, for the lack of better terms, throwing stuff out there and seeing what sticks. Now I have been consistent with it, so I've been doing my 90 days. I haven't thrown it out there once and just assumed it was going to work. But I'm ready to find that one thing and to let it just grow by itself, because I am one who struggles to ask for business. I can bring up real estate
Uh,
in any conversation, and you're stuck in that
yeah.
conversation once I start. So sorry if whoever wants to stop and talk to me at the bar or the store. But that one thing has to bring me passion. It has to be something that I thoroughly enjoy doing. And I am pretty outgoing, and so I can find joy in pretty much everything that I do. But for a business standpoint, and not getting, what's the word? Uh, we always use it like run out, burn out.
Burnt out, yeah.
Without getting burned out, I want to solidify that one thing, and I want that one thing to just attract people um, to me, and I want it to be so natural and so genuine. Um, and that's how I want to move in my business. I don't want to feel like I am bothering anybody, and I want anybody who comes across me feels like I that they are seen and that all of their needs were met, and if they weren't, that I worked my hardest to make sure that they were. And
Understood.
personally, I'm trying to serve on one of the Virginia boards, like a committee board. I actually just applied for a few committees yesterday, so I'm hopeful to hear back from that. And guess what boards I went for?
What? What's that?
Policies and procedures
Yes.
and
I
risk
mean,
management. So, like, I don't know, law school might be around the corner somewhere. Just
it
saying.
it it, it just you went back to it. It goes back to your thing, right? The policies. It like that is your thing.
I
So
might not know what I'm
I,
talking about, but I can quote the rules and the laws. Code
I
2.1 says.
listen. I read it. I know exactly what it say. I can quote it, and then I'll show you exactly what it said.
Yeah.
Right. So the question that I wanted to ask, and I'll ask you, what are some lessons, right, from education, from what you've learned that every entrepreneur should know? Like, I know there were some things that you picked up from the education realm of things where now people that are entrepreneurs, what are some things that they need, what that they should, get better at?
Well, I was going in a different direction, but I'll come back to there too. But first and foremost, when you go from a any job where you have a salary and insurance and paid time off and benefits. You don't get that in your entrepreneurial. If you're working for yourself immediately, you typically don't get that. You have to get it on your own. There are some entrepreneurial paths like joining a team that may offer benefits and things like that, or even brokerages like ours that offer insurances, but making sure that you take care of your house first. Um, you can't be out here without insurance and get sick and you work for yourself and now I can't work. And because I can't go to the doctor, I can't afford to pay for the emergency room. I need medication that I can't afford. So now I'm stuck with over the counter. Like you have to take care of your home first, including making sure that whatever you're doing, you're able to cover your bills at home too. Um, to start, especially in a real estate career, takes a lot of startup money. And so I would warn anybody who is transitioning to make sure that they have a pretty cushion, a pillow. Um, and though that wasn't a lesson I learned from education, it was a lesson I learned transitioning from education into an entrepreneurial role. Um, One lesson I did learn from education and now into real estate is everything you do is generalizable. So when somebody says, oh, like you really are a career switcher, you are. And people were super shocked and they're like, real estate? I'm like, yeah, like I've always been in real estate. I've always had properties, I've always helped. They're like, you've never talked about real estate ever. Like, are you okay? Are you sick? Do you blink if you need help? Right. And I'm like, everything that I've done in my life to work as an educator is so transferable and generalizable to everything that I'm doing now. The exact systems and the ethic, your work ethic that you need, the ability to show up on time and show up for yourself, the ability to be a lifelong learner, to work in teams and work with other people. These are all the same things that we do as realtors. And I truly believe that whatever job you have, nothing that you did, none of that time you were there is wasted. You learned exactly what you needed to know to move into your next position, be it another career, another company, another state, another whatever. You have the skills. And if you don't, you can learn those skills. I am learning a whole new career at my big age, and I'm doing
Yeah.
it. And I'm doing it.
That's and that's the thing where you're gonna constantly learn because the world evolves that you're never gonna know everything because things change. Like right now,
Mhm.
we are in the AI world where everybody's trying to learn AI. Even the people that
Mhm.
know AI, oh, a new update just came up. Oh, I got to go study that. So we're always in that position of learning. And
Yeah.
if you open yourself up to just continuously learning, then you will be good. You'll be in a good spot. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had some things that I wrote down from that question of lessons from education that every entrepreneurs would need. And it is amazing that the things I wrote down as some of the stuff that I thought about, you hit spot on. So it was patience, right? We talked about that earlier when we first, started the conversation of, making sure the way you showed up for the kids. And as somebody who was a teacher for kids and, for us parents, we know having patience is a big thing that we gotta have,
Mhm.
right? The second one was communication. That goes back to exactly what you said too. Like learning how to communicate. How do I want to be communicated with? Knowing that my energy and what I do can affect them as they're, maneuvering. As we know with even with adults, with our clients, communication is very, very important.
Mhm.
And then it was listening. We seek first to understand. We're always listening to understand adaptability, which we talked about as far as our personality types, like knowing we can adapt through different things. And then the last one was meeting people where they are, of, meeting them. And as we were having our conversation, and even not me ask you that question, just our conversation, period, those things have been hit on as we have had our conversation.
Honestly, I think that's just the key to life. Um, it doesn't matter what career you're in. That's what I can't even talk. You had me like you hit it on the spot. That's what makes us good humans. Like that's what makes us good people to other people. Communicate, patience. Honestly, just patience and communication. Everything else will follow. I've
Yeah.
been in so many situations where I'm like, let's just talk. Like I'm not good at the silent treatment because I'm like spiraling of like what I think you're thinking. Like, just talk. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be pretty. It could be the ugliest conversation you've ever had, but talk.
Yeah.
Nobody is a mind reader.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Communication and listening, those are, yeah. And you have to have patience too. Like,
yeah.
those are big things. And I love what you said. It's like this is just life in general. This isn't just specific to one industry, real estate, entrepreneur. Like, you need to have these in general because everybody, people are going through things. You're meeting people that it's not business related. So if you have these things, then you're able to, maneuver through the world somewhat good, and it happens anyway. So
You know what's
you can
interesting
eliminate
about
that
that?
much of stuff. What's
You
that?
know what's interesting about that? There's not one K through 5 class that teaches us how to communicate or teaches us how to be patient or teaches us how to listen. Like you're supposed to pick it up in the social skills in the school setting or whatever setting you're in, but it's not explicitly taught.
I'm sitting here thinking like that is right. It's always you're supposed to have patience. You got to be patient, and it's never okay. Well, how do I
What does that look
become
like?
patient? How do I have patience? Right?
Because I can be patient in talking over you. I can be patient and be quiet. I can, you know, what does that look like?
Yeah,
And is it okay that it looks different for me than it looks for you?
yeah. And even with the communication part of things, like when you get to a certain point, when if you're studying, you're reading, or you're taking certain classes, you don't even know how to communicate because people would tell somebody like you have to communicate. You have to communicate when if I don't know how to properly communicate with somebody, that communication is going to still be bad because perfect example, Dr. Mel, her form of having a disagreement is she talks low, she's not, she's calm. For me, my way I like to communicate is I like to be loud, right? I'm like, no. So we look at each other. If we don't know how to communicate, I would look at Dr. Mel and say, oh, you don't care because you're not loud like I am. And Dr. Mel would look at me like, Jesse, you must really don't care because you're getting loud and you're screaming because we don't know how to communicate and we don't know how the other person communicates. So you're right. Those are things that, that need to be taught, especially at a young age, instead of just saying, you have to have patience. You have to be patient. Well, what does that look like?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that might have
Interesting.
been the mic drop right there. But even in culture too, like we live in such a diverse world that we're always subconsciously offending somebody.
Yeah, yeah,
And like you have to think about every word you say so you don't get canceled. Like this cancel culture is going to end me because I'm like I still want to be able to speak and have these intelligent conversations with people and figure out what you're really thinking and not to come to a middle ground, not even to
yeah,
debate, but just to like where are you in this? But the minute you
yeah.
say something wrong, it's like okay. Now let me validate how you feel, right? And then move forward. But then it's like somebody still feels offended.
Yeah. It's one of those things too that's funny where everybody we want free speech. We want to be free to say what we want to say. And well, you can have that free speech, yet if you say something that's gonna offend somebody, you're gonna get canceled. Like it can't be it can't be both. Like yeah. I am not even gonna get started and go down that rabbit hole on this
We'll be here
conversation because
forever.
yeah, because we do not have enough time for that. So here's what I always like to do whenever I'm starting to wrap up the episode. So there's two questions I always ask my guests. The first question, what's one piece of advice or one thing that you would want to tell our listeners?
Whatever you're trying to do, you already have the skills and the resources to do it. If you don't have it in you right now, there's people around you, things around you. You can do it.
All right. And the second question I always ask is, if you can have a conversation with your younger self, what would you tell them?
Oof. um, you are going to have a lot of ambition and goals, and you're going to put timelines on it. Don't. Things happen when they're supposed to happen to who they're supposed to happen to at the exact right time. That is out of your control. But keep dreaming.
Whew. Dr. Mel, that was finna start a whole nother conversation, but I know we have to wrap up. That okay, I'm not even finna start. That was yes.
Yeah.
That is so real because a lot of people track their life on other people's time and or other people's thing. I like to say, hey, your chapter one is not somebody else's chapter 10. You can't compare those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. That was a bar. Dr. Mel, thank you for taking time
Thank
out of your
you.
day to rap with us. I appreciate it. You know, anything you need from me, you already know I got you.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Well, I
And for
appreciate it. Everything you're doing is amazing. And this should just be like go viral because I think your breakthrough blueprint is phenomenal.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. My whole thing is just talking to people, having conversations that could possibly help somebody that's going through something. You know, if I talk to enough people, we are bound to talk about something that somebody's going through and they don't feel like there's a way out. That the conversations that we have, the stories we share can show you that there's a way out and there's a way through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's why we do what we do. And for everybody, thank you for checking into another episode of Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast with your boy Coach Coleman. Love you all. See you next week and peace.